Hey guys, it's Viva, and today I'm going to be doing a book review of The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. I was sent this book by Maximum Pop Books to review, so I thought I'd do a quick video review because I'm not really sure if they want what kind of format they want the review in. But since I do BookTube, I thought it would be fitting to do a book review on here. So yeah, I apologise for my voice. I think I might be losing it, so I'm going to try and be as normal as I can. I also apologise for the lighting if it's a little strange. I can't really tell if it's strange. It's because I'm doing this at 8 o'clock in the morning. That is what I have resorted to since college has started. So I've read this, I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson sort of in May, June, and I wasn't really keen on it. I enjoyed it, but not as much as I thought I would, and not as much as other people enjoyed it. That might have been because I was reading it sort of in between my exams, and it was sort of, I didn't really read it continuously, so that might have been why I didn't enjoy it. So I definitely want to reread it to see if it's any different now that I don't have exams. But anyway, The Sky is Everywhere I thought was absolutely amazing. It's told in the point of view of this girl called Lenny, who has an older sister, Bailey, who died abruptly, really quite abruptly. And Lenny and Bailey were really close because their mum left them when they were toddlers, and so basically they've just been there for each other since they were little kids. So Lenny and Bailey live with their grandma and their uncle called Big, because he's a big man, in their grandma's house, and they share a room called the Sanctum, which I thought was really cool because it's described as having bright orange walls, and I love the colour orange, so I thought that was awesome. And also it's soundproof for when they practice their musical instrument playing and just messing about and stuff, so I thought again that was another little nice touch to it. Bailey is couple of years older than Lenny, and she's always been the more desirable one. Boys have always been sort of after her, and Lenny always felt that she was just a little bit of a shadow of Bailey and really didn't know herself. Bailey wanted to be a Broadway actress, and she had quite a dreamy boyfriend called Toby, who she literally just bumped into one day when she was reading and walking on the roads. So after Bailey's death, Lenny becomes quite withdrawn from everything and everyone. She doesn't talk to her best friend Sarah anymore, she doesn't talk to her grandma or her uncle about how she's feeling anymore, and she also does play the clarinet, but not like she used to. She used to play solos, but she doesn't do that anymore. So once she goes back to school a month after her sister's death, there's a new boy called Joe, who everyone is swooning over, including Lenny, although she doesn't want to admit that to herself because she feels guilty for liking someone straight after her sister's death. So Toby and Lenny start to get a little close because they feel like they're the only ones who understand how they're feeling, and they just for some reason feel that Bailey was just theirs. So instead of talking to each other and trying to support each other, they start becoming intimate, and then afterwards Lenny feels extremely guilty because Toby's Bailey's boyfriend. So in the summer holidays, Joe starts coming round to Len's house because he wants to hear her play her clarinet, because his music teacher told him that she was like an amazing clarinet player. So Joe plays a lot of instruments and wants to do a duet with Lenny, but she refuses time and time again. But Joe doesn't give up, and he still keeps coming to their house, and Lenny's grandma and Big really like him and his brothers. They're under his spell, really. So, as you can probably guess, Len does start falling for him and agrees to play a duet with Joe, and they fall in love with each other, but she's still seeing Toby and still being a little intimate with him, although she does feel very guilty about it afterwards and doesn't really know why she's doing it in the first place. She just feels that she can't talk to Joe about it because he didn't know Bailey. So one day Joe finds Toby and Lenny kissing, and he is extremely unforgivable. This has already happened to him once before. He found his previous girlfriend with his roommate, and he just doesn't forgive people very easily. So he sees them together and is very heartbroken, and so is Lenny because she didn't mean for that to happen, and so is Toby as well because he didn't mean for that to happen. He wasn't doing it on purpose. So Lenny goes back to her best friend Sarah and asks for help, and Sarah gives a little bit of bad advice, I'd say. She tells Lenny to just wear really short clothes because that might change Joe's mind, but Joe's just like, well, that's not the kind of person that I am. I'm not going to say anything else about what happens because I don't want to spoil the book, but I really love this. I finished it in less than 24 hours. One of my favourite parts of this book is that Lenny writes poems. She's a poet, and she, after Bailey's death, just leaves them in random places in her city, and they're all included in this book. So for example, on like a takeaway cup or things like that. So I thought that was a really, really good way of portraying her emotions. Also, music is an essential part to Lenny's life in this book, and this is the way that Jo and her bond, and sort of, I guess, the way that she starts recovering from her sister's death. Once she starts playing her clarinet, the music just comes out of her with all of her emotions and hidden thoughts that she's not able to vocalise. So I really like the fact that there was something symbolic in this book that helps her to cope with her sister's death. So the saying, a reader lives 1,000 lives, where I do think it is true in some cases, but most books I feel like I'm just watching a film and sort of just watching the characters in a movie in my head. But with this book, I actually thought that I was Lenny, and I felt her pain, her sadness, her joy. I felt everything, and I thought that was absolutely astounding in this book. Not many books have done that for me, so for that, yes. I'm very, very happy that I did get a chance to read this book because I just love it. So I haven't lost anyone close to me like Lenny has, but after reading this book I felt that I had actually lost an older sister, and I don't even have an older sister, so that is how amazingly written this book was. Some of my favourite quotes from this book, one of my all-time favourite quotes actually from this book is, "The sky is everywhere, it starts at your feet." I just think that that is so inspiring and such an amazing quote. Another one is, "You can tell your story any way you damn well please, it's your solo." And again, I think that is so amazing because it's just telling us to take control of our life and that no one else can be in control of your life except for you. You write your own story, and again, I just thought it was amazing. Also, I think the title was very fitting because throughout the book, Lenny sort of feels that Bailey is around her, so by saying that the sky is everywhere, she's relating Bailey to the sky, which is everywhere. And I just thought that was a really cute title. Again, not many books teach me a moral lesson at the end. This one, I think, has taught me that grief never really goes away with time. Time doesn't heal sadness. We just learn to live with it, and grief just becomes a part of our daily life until you can't really tell the difference because we're just living with it. Also, this book was written in first person, which I thought was very effective because we could actually see what Lenny was thinking at all times, and it also helped because I think it was in third person and she was describing the parts where she was getting quite intimate with Toby. Then I wouldn't have liked her as much as I do because if it was third person they wouldn't have described her guilt, but since it is in first person I didn't really hate her because, again, like I said, I felt like I was Lenny, so I could understand why I was quite close to Toby. Okay, so I lost some footage, I think. I came to edit this video and then realised that there was quite a big chunk of it that was missing, so I'm refilming it, and now the lighting is even weirder because we've just had a thunderstorm and now it is really sunny because that is the lovely British weather, so half of my face is bright while the other half is dark. I'm also doing this like a week later, so my voice is considerably better, and I've tried to look the same, but I don't think I really am. My hair's different, but anyway, let's not draw attention to all of that. The footage that I lost was just a little bit about the characters. So, like I've mentioned, the narrator in this book is Lenny Walker, and I found her voice to be incredible. Like I've said, I felt like I was her. I didn't find her annoying at all, and I did sympathise with her, even though I think quite a few people, especially when she gets intimate with Toby, would disagree with me because they would feel that she's being unfaithful to her sister and also to Jo. But I could definitely just see why she did it in the first place. The next character that I want to talk about is Jo, and again, I fall for the really typical sort of characters. Jo is described as being really attractive. Him and his brothers are all really tall and they have the sort of, you know, the hair as people call it, and he's a musician, so he plays tons of instruments, has an amazing sense of humour as well, and I think a sense of humour, a good sense of humour, is something that I definitely look out for in a guy, because if you're not funny, then no. So Jo was just amazing, and I felt so sorry for him. Probably the only part in the book that I was annoyed with Lenny was when Joe found her and Toby together, and he was just heartbroken, and I was just so irritated and angry at Lenny for doing that to the poor boy who's already gone through it before. So Joe didn't know Bailey at all, but he still manages to bring a smile to Grandma and Big's faces, and he even makes Lenny laugh, and he just lightens up the entire atmosphere. I almost thought of him as like a little angel sent by Bailey for Lenny, because Bailey would have known that without her, Lenny would be very, very lonely. So I, throughout the book, just felt like Joe was an angel, because he was described in a very angelic way. He didn't seem to have any flaws, so I wanted Joe. Okay, so the next character is Toby, who I don't think was explored enough. I would have liked maybe a little bit more to do with Toby, but like I've said, I was more annoyed at Toby than Lenny for not stopping them. But again, I could see why he needed that sort of comfort, because Lenny is described as Bailey's shadow, so Toby might have looked at Lenny and thought of Bailey and just felt very nostalgic and sad, and maybe just felt the need to reach out to her, so I can understand that, kind of. Next is Lenny's grandma, Grams, who I absolutely loved. I would love a grandma like her. She is just so cool, and she is really obsessed with gardening, so no one can touch her flowers, and to pacify Joe, Lenny takes some of her roses and she gets so angry. Now, I'm not a fan of gardening, but I can see why she would be so protective of her roses, and especially because everyone in the neighbourhood comes to Lenny's grandma for gardening tips and stuff, so the light keeps changing, and now it looks like we're going to have another storm because it's gone really grey and cloudy outside. That was thunder. Great. Superb. Wonderful. Okay, another character that's mentioned quite a lot is Big, so Lenny's uncle, and again, he wasn't explored too much, but he did seem like a very cool sort of guy. He's married tons of times, well, I say tons, but he's married 5 times. He's had 5 marriages and it just hasn't worked out, and he's sort of the stud of the town, like all of the ladies sort of go to him, and he is obsessed, like Lenny's grandma is obsessed with gardening. Big is obsessed with trees. He knows everything to do with trees. And obviously another obvious character to talk about is Bailey herself, who isn't actually in the book at the time because obviously she's died and it's Lenny telling it after she's died. But through Lenny you really get to know what Bailey is like, and you know all of her dreams and what kind of a person she was, and I became quite attached to her. So again, this is all Jandy Nelson's amazing work for writing such an incredible book, and the lighting has changed yet again and I am now yellow. Brilliant. What is going on? But yes, I would definitely recommend this book to anyone who hasn't read it, and thank you so much Maximum Pop Books for sending it to me. I absolutely loved reading it, and yes, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 stars for sure. And yes, that is the end of my review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Hasta la vista, bookworms!